We are back with Ryan Harbison from Alberta Skylights Elite Roofing, and we have a topic today that's pretty interesting for homeowners in the Edmonton area, all throughout the whole region. It's why does my roof need to be replaced when it looks fine from the ground?
It looks fine from the ground.
Looks fine from the ground. So let's get into it. So number one, we have old style shingles. You had paper-based shingles, and then you've got fiberglass-based shingles. So tell me what the problem is, what's the difference between the two, and then the solution.
So for many years, we used to have what's called organic shingles. They were made very similar to modern day shingles. The key difference was the skeleton, the matting, the center part of your shingle. Used to be that was all made out of recycled papers, cardboards, newsprints, etc. They were all ground up. They were turned into a mat and then saturate that with asphalt. That was the foundation of your shingle. Probably about 2012, that technology all went away, 2010, somewhere in that ballpark. And what we now have is fiberglass mat. The fiberglass mat is a lot more consistent. It's a lot more predictable. You're not at the mercy of whatever recycling inputs come into your way. Did you end up with a whole bunch of newsprint, which absorbs asphalt at a different rate than cardboard? It's just a lot more of a predictable product, which has also led to a much longer warranty. You know, roofs used to have 20, 25, 30-year options. Now roofing shingles, they start at 50-year warranties on them. So the technology has just come a very long way, but it's also done a handful of things to how those shingles age. With the older organic shingles, whenever they would get worn out, what would happen? You'd lose some of the granules. That fiberglass or that paper mat in there would get wet. And when it dries out, what happens to paper? It curls up, which is what used to cause all of the shingles to curl. That was the old curling of your shingles. Fiberglass shingles will never do that. There is no paper there to go. So when they start to let go from the ground, they still look like they're in good shape. That doesn't necessarily mean they are.
Okay, so what are some of the warning signs that your fiberglass shingles are, ready for replacement, or they're going to start producing a leak?
Yeah, absolutely. So some warning signs you could look for, probably the first one most people are going to see that's the same for organic shingles versus the fiberglass shingles is granule loss. The granules are there to protect that asphalt from the sun as well as to look good. As they get older, that starts to dry, the granules start to fleck off. All of a sudden the asphalt gets to be more exposed, it dries out faster, accelerated depreciation, they just start to fail a lot quicker. So after a good rainstorm or a good windstorm, if you're noticing at the bottom of your downspouts or on your deck a whole bunch of granules, that's your first one. When you're cleaning your gutters out, if they're full of granules, that's your first sign. Hey, these shingles are starting to get a little bit older. If you have a house that's, a 2-story and you can see out onto the roof from the upper part, you can actually notice it. They look like shiny white spots. You'll see that white fiberglass sticking through the shingles. That's a pretty good indicator that, hey, there's something going on with this roof too. If you're starting to see a bunch of white, shiny little, fibers sticking out all over the place, that's another really good one too. Another thing that those fiberglass shingles will do that the organic ones didn't is they crack quite a bit. That's not to say organic shingles didn't crack, but it's a lot more common in the fiberglass, especially the early versions of that fiberglass shingle. They'll start to crack. When they start to crack, all of a sudden you're getting water in there. It's starting to split and freeze. All of a sudden you're losing the integrity of your roof in there as well. So there's another indicator in that one.
Well, you've been a roofer for how long now?
I started roofing in 99, so 99. Turn of the century.
So turn of the century. He is an oldie in the roofing industry.
What gave it away?
And you've done roofs all over Alberta. So you've done roofs in Edmonton and Sherwood Park and St. Albert and all points in between. And you've seen this a number of times, right? So what are some of the things that people will start noticing after the granule loss? And if they're not able to see the cracking, what are some other things that happen given, our crazy climate here in Alberta?
Sure. So back to that 2008 to 2012 era where you had both organic and fiberglass shingles on the market, it was very common for contractors to use organic shingles for the peaks, the hips and the ridges, and fiberglass shingles on the field. So it's very, very common for those ridge caps to wear out, and they look terrible compared to the rest of the roof. We're seeing a lot of that, especially now. So that's a pretty good indicator in there that something's going on. Nowadays, we have fiberglass ridge capping as well. So everything is system matched. You're not going to have that part of it. The other thing that's happening, we're seeing a lot of is, the roof is 15, 18 years old. The sealing strip that ties the two shingles together, the glue strip, the tar strip, sealing strip, whatever you want to call it, is starting to let go. So it's been on there, it's lived its life, it's kind of getting ready to go. All of a sudden your shingles start flapping in the wind, and good windstorm, there goes some of your shingles. So people are starting to see blow-offs are becoming a lot more common on the laminated shingles as well. There is a process we can do. It's called hand tabbing your roof, where we lift each one of those shingles up and we put a little bit of roofing cement in between each shingle. It's a little bit laborious, but it can buy you a lot of time on your roof. The shingle itself is okay. It's just losing that seal. So we can take and glue it back down, but it comes with a little bit of a note. Oftentimes, whenever you do that hand tabbing, that hand sealing of your shingles, you lose a lot of serviceability. Right now, we could take your shingle apart, put a new one in, do whatever we have to do, no problem. Once you take and you start gluing them down together, you're just going to rip those shingles, taking them off. So it's kind of a, hey, we got to start looking at this and getting everything sealed down properly. So
doing that would be one of the last things that you would do before doing basically a tear off and re-roofing it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of times you can get a lot of life out of a roof by hand sealing it. You just have to know going into it that you're really reducing the serviceability after the fact, right?
And the next step after doing that would be, okay, it's time to re-roof this thing.
You could be looking at that. But once again, if you take and you hand tab that roof and you get another 5 to 7 years out of it, that's a pretty good investment, right? Mm-hmm. So
exactly. And what would it's very tough to give a cost, but roundabout range on a typical roof, let's say, what would that cost to do that hand tabbing?
Like a simple bungalow, you're going to have 2 guys there, maybe 4 to 6 hours and a little bit of material. So, you're maybe $1,000, $1,200. You can extend the life of your roof quite a bit. You get a lot of life out of it.
Nice.
Of course, when you're there, you're going to look at the other things. Are your vents in good shape? You do a complete tune-up. We'll call it the end-of-life special. We're just going to push this thing to the end of its life, right? So vents are reasonably cheap. If we're already on the site and we know that this vent, plumbing boots are a really, really bad one. They rot out, 10, 12, 14 years in, they're starting to rot out. Those are really good and easy to change. I've seen a ton of videos on our site about that. There's some things you can do to get a lot of life left out of your roof. You do not have to replace your roof just because something is going on with it. There's a lot of service options we've got available to us.
Yeah, I guess that's what sets Alberta Skylights Elite Roofing apart from other roofing contractors. Other roofing contractors are there to, they just want to rip the roof off and replace it right away, no matter what the problem is. But you actually take it a few steps further and you work with the customer, with the homeowner, to come up with a solution that's going to work for them.
For them, right? My biggest high pressure sales pitch is, this is the least expensive your roof is ever going to be again. Things only go up. So if we're talking about, dropping $1,200 today to get 2 to 3 years out of your roof, maybe it's time to just look at financing options and let's get this whole roof replaced. We can offer financing. You're going to save that money in the long run. But if we're talking, 5 to 7 years left on your roof, you got to balance that out. It's not a matter of what the roof is doing. You really have to know, why is it doing it? That's the big question. What determines whether we're going to replace it or repair it is the why. If somebody took and they nailed that shingle incorrectly and all the nails are really high, you've lost so much strength on that roof to begin with. You can put as much glue on there as you want. It's already compromised. But if the roof was nailed right, was installed fairly well, everything is just getting old, we can do a lot of stuff on there. Put a coat of wax on your car and get a couple more years. You don't have to paint it just because it's getting a little faded, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. So is there anything else that people should know about their shingles, their fiberglass shingles, that could either save them some money, or any other tips that you've got for us?
Well, back to the car analogy. One of the first things you can do that's going to get you a lot more life is just get it inspected, right? A lot of people say you need an annual inspection on your roof. Roofs are reasonably, fire and forget. Inspections are important. Definitely once every other year at least, have somebody go up there and take a look at it. Check for things like, is there exposed caulking? A lot of times the nails will back out. Are there loose shingles on your roof? Check that seal between those seals. It's a super easy test. Just grab the shingle and give it a little wiggle. You'll know right away. Take a look in your gutters. You should be cleaning your gutters out once a year at least anyhow. How much granules are in there? You're always going to have some in there. You'll know when it's excessive, right? Shingles are going to lose granules. That's just part of having shingles on your roof. So those are some things you as a homeowner can do to actually see and watch what your roof is actually doing. A lot of times when those vents are there, you look at the bottom, if they used roofing cement on there, they're going to dry out, they're going to crack. That's a very, very common thing. It's easy enough to fix. Get some proper silicone, get that up on there. Make sure that the silicone is going to work well with asphalt. A lot of people will just get any old silicone and put it on there and it doesn't work with asphalt or stick. You got to know your materials a little bit, but it's reasonably simple and straightforward.
All right. Awesome. Thanks so much, Ryan, for sharing with us today. Hey, thanks so much, Ryan, for sharing with us today. If you're a homeowner in the Edmonton region and you're looking for a replacement or you need an advice or just an inspection, call Ryan from Alberta Skylights Elite Roofing. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you on the next one.
Thanks again.